Good evening, 12s, and welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast. I'm Candace Higgins,
And I'm Tino Ganasius.
and we are back to revel in what is a Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl. We are so much further than I even thought, but of course, you know, I believed in them from the beginning. So, Tino, got it. You got to eat it, man. You have hated on this team. You have hated on Sam Darnold literally every step of the way, every game, even in the game, hating on the guy as he's trying to rally this team to get to the Super Bowl. I see you got Sam Darnold's number one fan, man. It took long enough to get you on board. That's crazy, bro.
That she's referring to those for those listening. She's referring to my name on the screen reads Sam Darnold's number one fan. Um,
That's insane.
I, I can't say much honestly. Other than maybe I would have again. Maybe I would have taken a little different approach if I was the defensive coordinator. But he's been great. What can I say? Like I can't. Did I hold on to my Sam Darnold's terrible take for a long time? Sure. But at this point in time, he did what I thought he couldn't do, which is in the NFC Championship game, he goes 25 for 36 with 346 yards and three touchdowns and no interceptions. Didn't lose a fumble either. And that I didn't think he was capable of that. I honestly didn't. Um, and kudos to him, right? And this is the team that I love and the team I root for. So it's time for me to put that hate behind me. It's time for me to, to acknowledge the fact that Sam Darnold did grow, like you said he would, um, and no one can take this away from him, right? He could revert back to being, trash next year. We don't know, but the reality is nobody can take away from him the fact that he's in the Super Bowl. And this Rams game was not the defense, right? The defense played as well as they could, and I think that the Seahawks were matched up against a really good, great LA Rams team with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame coach. But Sam Darnold won the game that I did not think he could, which is a game where he had to step up, make big throws, not make mistakes, match a Hall of Fame quarterback throw for throw, and he did all of those things. So yes, you were right. He grew into this role, and he was amazing in this game. All the props to him. All props to him.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really exciting to see because it's something I've been keeping track of and something we've been constantly arguing over. But you saw those checkpoints, right? The way that he was able to fix mistakes. You saw him begin to take more sacks, but that they be smart sacks. He did that a few times even in this NFC championship game, right? Just eat the ball. Don't try to get it out. Sometimes not even try to throw it away. Now you'll see him throw the ball away more often, but you'll also see him run for a first down on occasion, right? I think those opportunities were there early in the year as well. And so you saw this evolution of him coming out hot, right? Coming out hot, looking like a top five, quarterback. I didn't expect that to really last. I sort of figured eventually that would level out, and it did, but it leveled out in a way that one allowed the run game to get going, and it gave Darnold an opportunity to take a step back and say, how can I balance? It almost gave him a recalibration, right? Where he's not, in the NFC, in the divisional round. Um, the conference champion, wait, no, divisional round?
Which
49ers,
game?
that was what? 49ers
Divisional
game?
round.
Divisional round. I thought so.
Divisional
But
round.
in that divisional round, he only had to throw 17 passes, right? Now, part of that was because of how dominant the team performance was around him, but also you saw him pick and choose his spots. You saw him just, check it down here, check it down there, but you also saw him be able to rip a ball to JSN, right? Even with a messed up oblique, and get that throw. So you saw him be able to weigh successfully risk versus reward. There was an opportunity I talked about it in the last time we talked where I thought he should have thrown the ball away. And then you look at the
Mhm.
replay, there's a defender right in his face with his hand up. Had he thrown that ball away or attempted to, that ball could have been tipped, could have been a turnover, but he's learned to even diminish those opportunities. So you're just seeing what these little check marks that I've been looking for that he's been kind of incrementally getting better at, and you saw this culminating effort of him being able to to reduce the turnovers, him being able to make the smart play, check it down when he needs to, take an intermediate route when he needs to. And he just had the confidence and the flow of the first few games, the control and the poise that he's been playing with these last few games. It really, he still got Super Bowl to play. We'll talk about how he plays in that. But I just think to rise to that occasion and to see his progression that most people don't give him credit for, I think it's been great for him to finally shut up the many haters, including on this podcast that he's had, and to prove to himself that like he can be that guy, like he can play at an elite level and play clean football at the same time.
So there's a difference between throwing your hater card away and just putting it in your pocket and leaving it there for another time. Um, I I don't know. So here's my thing. Super Bowl. I think Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and I think Darnold's going to play well because I don't. I we can talk about New England in a minute. Um, New England is a very well put together team. I don't think they're as good as the Rams. Um, so we'll see. But the interesting thing to me, and I'm not trying to jump the gun, but I do wonder how much of this is also Clint Kubiak being a very good coordinator, right? I think that they put together they were really good scheme wise this year,
Yeah.
really good, right? And I think a team that can go from being able to run the ball one game to being able to pass the ball the next game, be multiple in that way, and do whatever the defense is giving them, right? Which is what I think they did for the most part this year, and be good at whatever it is that the defense is giving them. In this particular game, there were opportunities to throw the ball to JSN 12 times, and they capitalized, right? We didn't see that in some of the previous games. I do think that Kubiak had an enormous impact. Sometimes that impact is permanent on a player like Sam Darnold. Sometimes that just jump starts him and he learns it and he doesn't lose it. And sometimes the scheme can make somebody better temporarily. I don't know with Darnold. I'm guessing it's permanent. I'm guessing Darnold has taken that next step. He's gotten older and he's matured in the ways that I didn't think he could, that you did. Um, but I am interested to see what the impact of even the Kubiak rumors this week, right? Kubiak is, I think, in the lead for the Raiders job, is what I saw.
Hmm.
And, what does that do anything to, uh, to the preparation? Actually, we should jump into this real quick because it's huge news. A bunch of major outlets reported that the Seahawks would go up for sale uh, after the Super Bowl, which I thought was wild. Now the Seahawks denied it as an organization, right? And we all know that Paul Allen's sister took over the team when he passed, but she would sell the team eventually. There's no better time to sell a team, than after they win the Super Bowl, in a lot of ways. But the other rumor out there is that New England is spreading that rumor in order to distract the Seahawks from focusing on the Super Bowl. Um, I don't know whether that's true or not because the Seahawks are set to be put up for sale at some point in the near future because it was not his sister's passion. Um, but I think that's interesting that between that, usually like a coordinator leaving does have a little impact, right, on a team. I think the Seahawks team is really tight, and I think that they're very they're led very well. But there are distractions, right? There are things out there that I think are interesting and headlining and are worth us discussing on this podcast.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And we'll probably get into those points. I do want to talk about Clint Kubiak though, because um, like you said, a big part of this win, this victory against the Rams was Clint Kubiak proving he can make adjustments as he goes. Right, as I just talked about the progression of Sam Darnold, took Clint a little while, but it's like, especially once we got to the back half of the season, he started pulling out some of these stops, and maybe he held it on purpose. Maybe he was just waiting on these opportunities to develop before he pulled out certain stops. But he broke tendency quite a bit. Well, you talked about JSN getting open. A lot of that was because Clint Kubiak made him open. Like he's
Yeah,
taking JSN, putting him in the backfield,
lining them up the other
giving
way. Yeah,
conflict between the linebacker and the safety. Who's supposed to cover him? Up, nobody does. Like it's a
Right.
lot of him maneuvering him in the slot, outside of the slot. He looks like he's lined up outside, but he ends up, changing mid course, ends up being in the slot. Got a matchup you want, middle of the field, boom, completion. So it was a lot of Clint Kubiak manipulating, knowing how to manipulate this Rams defense, and like I said, he got him on a couple of times. Especially, I think of that the opening drive, the shot to Rashid Shaheed on
Yeah,
third and 5.
that was
I
nuts.
That was
That was
nuts.
nuts.
I said for some time they keep sitting on the sticks on this team. They just think they can sit on these routes. They
Hmm.
anticipate what they're doing. You got to break tendency, break out a double move, something on these guys to get them flat footed. They saw it. As soon as the opportunity presented itself, caught him off guard. She blow spots Duke by like 5 yards. Like he just had all the space in the world up there. And really, I thought he could have potentially housed it, but they did make a touchdown saving tackle there. But that was a huge play, 55 yards, and it was just Kubiak Blake breaking tendency against a Rams
Hmm.
team that I felt spent a little bit too much time thinking that they already had the upper hand and didn't spend enough time um, planning as if they didn't.
I think sometimes with the Rams too, though, and I might be guilty of this if I was Sean McVay, is if you have Stafford, you kind of you always think you're going to win. You kind of always think you can come back, and so there's a bravado that they play with. So with some
Mhm,
of their play calls and whatnot, that's different, and I think a lot of that stems from McVay and from the the having Matt Stafford as your quarterback
mhm.
because he makes plays when it counts. I think when it was on the 4th and 4 with 5 minutes left, when the Rams had the ball on the Seahawks 6 yard line and they decided to go for it, you know, I don't know that I would have gone for it there. I probably would have kicked the field goal. I tend to be a little more conservative, but they went for it, and I guess it makes sense if you have Matt Stafford at the 6 yard line and those receivers that you go for it, right? But Spoon came up enormous in
Yeah,
that situation,
yeah.
and he had been getting beat at times in this game, but he
Oh,
was there when it counted. He was there when it counted. But I think that's an example of McVay and Stafford being so confident in who they are that they elected to go for it on that play. Again, some more conservative coaches may not have gone for it in that situation.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that stood out to me the most was, I didn't expect the Rams to be able to put up similar numbers or similar yards as they did in the last matchup. I just really felt like Mike McDonald was going to adjust. It'd be a more tight, I mean, it was a tight game, but it wouldn't be Matt Stafford looking like MVP Matt Stafford. Like, I didn't think he was going to look like that against his defense. But to your point, he did. Like, they took, for just as much as I'm complimenting Clint Kubiak, Sean McVay had a masterful game plan. He absolutely completely caught Mike McDonald and his whole team off guard. They played in 12 personnel, which they had not done before, way more than they ever did. They expected 11, they expected 13. That 12
Hmm.
personnel package, they didn't have the answers for, and they struggled to come up with answers. Now, the defense was able to hold the Rams to 1 of 8 on third down. So they held up when
Hmm.
it mattered the most. But other than that, they got gashed, right? And what I'm the most proud of is that this team was able to take Sean McVay and Matt Stafford's best punch, because that was what you got. You got their
Hmm.
best punch. And they were still able to now, on 2 occasions, win the game in the end.
I felt at times like certainly, the Rams ran the ball 22 times, but it felt sometimes like he was like, "Look, we're going to take 3 shots downfield, and we're just gambling that we're going to hit one of them."
Yeah.
That may not have been what they were actually doing, but they went. He threw the ball deep a lot in this game,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it may have been a situation where they're like, "We know we can't beat them at the line of scrimmage. We know we can't dink and dunk this offense or this defense. They tackle too well,
Mhm.
right? So the only chance we're really going to have is to try to hit big with our big receivers at times and try to just big play them to death, right? Because I do think that at times there are, I would say, the safeties are in Job, aren't a weakness necessarily, but if you're looking for the softest spot in that defense, you could make the case that's it. Now that's
Right.
a testament to everyone else because the safeties are above average, I think, in the league. And
Well, really
Job, if
above
he's your
Superbowl. Yeah.
Right. And if Job is your third corner, you're in a pretty good spot.
Hmm.
But you're not running against this team, right?
Right.
You're not holding the ball in the pocket for, forever, although Stafford did have some time in this game.
Hmm.
And you're definitely not going to break a lot of tackles because of the way this team tackles. So, yeah, the chess match was phenomenal. Your points about Kubiak and some of the being able to flex or be different and break tendency was huge.
Yep.
It was huge. I also think Canine is worth shouting out as well because
Yeah.
while they only averaged 2.9 yards a carry as a team, his ability to grind out yards that typically were Charbonnet's carries, he ran 19 times against a stout defense. He only gained 62 yards, but those yards were important, right? And I think I don't think he's a 20 carry a game running back moving forward, but he demonstrated that he could do that at times. And, if that's who he needs to be against New England in the Super Bowl, he may in fact be able to do it. So I don't know. I'm proud of this team, right? And I love watching this team. And this defense is its strength. It's a blast to watch. I think they're top to bottom the best defense in the NFL. I don't know that I put them up with LOB yet, in large part because I think LOB is not giving up these points to the Rams in this situation. Um, but I think they're close, and they're the most fun defense I've watched since LOB. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a really awesome Super Bowl to watch. I can't believe our team is there, especially given um, what I thought this team was going into this season. I think what everybody thought this team was coming into this season. I challenge anybody to find a take that said the Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl in 2026.
Well, you could probably rewind ours and go back to when you said, "Do you think Sam Darnold can win this team a Super Bowl?" And I was like, "Yes, Tino, I do think Sam Darnold can win this team a Super Bowl."
Go.
But
We got
no,
to go find that because I don't
yeah,
remember you
we can go
saying.
find it. We'll go find it. I feel like it
All
was like three recordings ago. We'll go find it.
right.
Yeah.
No, that's
But
different. I'm saying before the season started. I'm saying
oh yeah,
when the
so,
season
yeah, that's true.
started,
That's
was
true.
there anybody who thought this team would go this far? I think you
That's true.
said playoffs, lose round one. I said they
Yep.
won't make the playoffs, and we went back and forth because we thought this was a developmental year. Now, do I think that they got a little bit, everything aligned perfectly, including I don't think they're here if they didn't have Rashid Shaheed.
I
I think
agree.
that trade was phenomenal. I also think the defense is literally as good as it could possibly be. Did anybody think Demarcus Lawrence was who he's been this year?
I didn't.
Right? No.
No, I didn't.
Did did I think the best, and this might be a hot take, but I think the best player on this defense already is Nicky Minwari. I
That's
think he's
not so
that
much
good.
a hot take based on how
I,
the
I think
game went. Yes,
I
the
think
last
I,
game, man, he was the
well, and I
guy.
also think that when you have a player who is you have to game plan for him now. He is a game wrecker, especially at the line of scrimmage. An absolute game wrecker. You don't know where he's lining up. You don't know what his role is on that snap because he's as good at the line as he is, making big plays over the middle, crashing down on tight ends, on running backs, right? Making, you know, quick tackles, if not breaking up a play, from anywhere, right? You don't know where he's coming and when. And I just think that chess piece he's been amazing. He might be my favorite player on this defense to watch. And I just think all of these things lined up. Eamon Wari, and this is a testament to John Schneider and the coaching staff, right? Eamon Wari was exactly what we wanted him to be, maybe even better. Demarcus Lawrence might have been the best free agent signing in the entire NFL this year.
Other
Byron
than Sam
Murphy
Darnold.
took.
Other than
I
Sam
might
Darnold.
make the case Demarcus Lawrence was a better free agent pickup than Sam Darnold, honestly. But
Mm,
everything they did, they're rolling sevens and 11s over and over and over and over again. A lot of that is again the organization making good decisions. Rashid Shaheed being available, the exact player they needed. We talked about it over and over again. They needed that field stretcher. Otherwise, defenses were going to just play tight. They
mhm.
got it. They got one of the fastest players in the NFL and not just a track star, a football player. His returns have been just as important as what he's done as a wide receiver. And that wasn't something that it It was something we knew he did. We did not know the impact he would have on the special teams. I don't think anybody could say he was going to have multiple touchdowns, in the second half of the season for the Seahawks.
Right.
And then obviously Sam Darnold and the offensive line playing at the level they did. I think everything went almost perfectly, and that's what you need to be able to go to the Super Bowl. But hats off to everybody for doing it. The execution has been phenomenal, elite all
Yeah.
season long, all
And,
season long.
and just think about this. So you were talking about Nicky Moore and how big of a role he played, particularly in this Rams game, because he was the one getting a lot of those third down stops, to be honest. Like
Mhm.
they weren't getting off the field unless it was a Nicky Moore pass defense or pass breakup or whatever. Like he was the guy, right? But you traded DK Metcalf and all the money you were going to have to pay him for Nicky
Mhm.
Moore. I mean, that alone is worth Executive of the Year, I think, on top of all the other moves that you mentioned. And one thing that you didn't mention that I was high on from the very beginning was the hiring of Clint Kubiak and how big of a
Yep.
deal that was. Because to
You're right.
your point earlier, there will be a question depending on what happens after this season about Clint Kubiak. Like it's pretty much it's kind of like a done deal. Sounds like almost that he's going to the Raiders. What does that make this offense look like at this point going forward? It's gonna be a ton of questions. So for one,
Mhm.
I hope to God they win the Super Bowl. And so two, because you don't know like all the changes that are coming. But I
You
think
don't
that
know
as
when they'll
great
get
as
back.
yes, you don't know when they'll get back. Because for as great as the offensive line played, I won't pretend that the structure of how the offense is built did not take a lot of pressure off of the offensive line and off of Sam Darnold. Like he thrives in this structure. He thrived in it with the Minnesota Vikings. And so you got to find a way to maintain that somewhere if you're looking to duplicate this kind of success. And we'll focus on the Super Bowl right now. We'll have that be a focus for right now. But those are certainly questions that are going into the season because of how successful those moves going into last offseason, how successful those moves were that got us to this point. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Can I say too, one of the moments that I fell in love with Nicky Minwari was after Reek made the play and then got the 15-yard penalty, the most knucklehead thing you've ever seen.
I almost burned my jersey, Tino.
It
I
was
almost burned
bad.
it on the spot.
On the sidelines, you saw they showed even Wari just cussing out Woolen, cussing
Yep.
him out
Going at
like
him.
a veteran, right? That you would expect Spoon maybe to do,
Hmm.
or Jones to do, or Leonard Williams or someone like that. No, even Warriors like, nah, man, we're not we're not going out like that, right? And I love that because he knows how good he is, and he cares that much about what they're doing. And it's not that Reek doesn't care, but you know how Reek has been,
He's a
right?
knucklehead.
And he is, and he makes phenomenal plays, but he also he's not smart enough to realize this isn't about him. This is about the team.
Yes.
Often that's kind of how he acts. And Imanwari has the talent that he does, but he also has the passion and the understanding, the IQ that he does. And I think you don't find those players often that have that kind of at 6'3", 230 pounds, 225, with that kind of athletic ability, who they have that kind of passion, that kind of drive, that kind of intelligence. You talk about Michael Jordan. That's part, and he's not obviously I'm not comping him to him, but that's what made Jordan special was he had like the most competitive athlete I think of my lifetime, but also was the highest jumper, and had all the other athleticism and all the other traits. Eamon Warrior is like that, where every box is checked. So I'm fascinated to see what becomes of him, how good he can actually be, and I think ultimately, I think if we want to move on, this defense is going to be what wins this team a Super Bowl for sure. Not
For
that
sure.
not that the offense isn't important and the offense isn't playing well, but we're in this position because we're looking at a generational defense.
Yeah, and there are going to be some people who give pushback because the Rams have been able to, kind of have their way against the Seahawks defense. But I want for people to understand because I've heard this a lot. I've listened to a lot of content. Obviously, I'm pretty absorbed in content right now because we're going to the Super Bowl. But
Hmm.
I've heard a lot of takes about how the Rams and they do have the Seahawks defense number to some extent, but a couple of things of note. I've heard, maybe going into the preview a little bit, some Patriots fans being like, "Oh, well, if Matt Stafford can do that, then Drake May can do that." I just want to put it out there right now. Drake May is not Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford has won Super Bowls. He has been around the block. He is super experienced. He's with Sean McVay, one of the best offensive, actually, I mean, arguably the best offensive mind in the game. I don't think there's another person you put above him at all, or even closer than Shanahan. And he's
Andy
been
Reid
able
maybe
to,
a couple years ago.
right. He's been able to face, they both been able to face this team 3 times now. Nobody's
Hmm.
really talked about the familiarity that they give you on both sides, because the
Sure.
first time that these teams matched up in game 1 this year, see, our defense locked them up, right? But
Right.
what does Sean McVay do? He adjusts and he adjusts again, and that's also what Mike McDonald does. So then you get this chess match. I don't think there are too many coach quarterback tandems. For all of the respect that I give to Mike Vrabel, and
Hmm.
as great as he is, and for all the respect that I give to Drake May and what he's been able to do early in his career, they don't have the experience, they don't have the familiarity with this Seahawks defense to attack it the way
Right.
that the Rams know how to do. I just put it out there right
Yeah.
now. They're not the same.
So, two comments along those lines. One is when you're competing against another team in your division, and you know that team is going to peak at the same time as you, meaning the Seahawks know and the Rams know and the 49ers know. They're all built. If you look at the way these teams are constructed, they're built to beat one another,
Mhm.
right? You have to build to beat the team in your division.
Mhm.
And so the Rams are built specifically to compete with the Seahawks and to compete with the Niners. And so I would expect closer games between those teams. You're right. Sometimes scheme means less because the teams are familiar with one another.
Mhm.
And so I think that is a big difference. You cannot say the Patriots are going to score X amount of points because the Rams did. It's apples and oranges, right? The other big thing to me is the way so Darnold and Drake May both have tremendous arm talent. I think in order to be quarterbacks like that, you have to have your arm talent has to be elite. But Stafford is the MVP because of his brain.
Yeah.
Stafford is the MVP to your point because of his experience.
Mhm.
Stafford is the MVP because of McVay. Stafford's the MVP because they went out and picked up Devontae Adams to
Right.
pair with Puka Nacua, right?
Right.
And so the big difference to me between Drake May and Matt Stafford, the arm talent again is elite on both quarterbacks, but it's the experience. It's what I call the processor, right? Like the computer chip in your brain,
Mhm.
how quickly you process defenses. We all know Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, they were toast physically, but they continued to play quarterback at a decent level in the NFL because of the way they saw the game. They say that you get better and better at that. That's part of why Matt Stafford's been able to put it all together at what is he, 37?
Yep.
Is because he still has the arm, but all the knowledge he's picked up along the years has got him to this point. It's also why McVay loves him so much,
Right.
right? Is because he's old and smart, but still has a great arm. Drake May has made a ton of plays with his legs, right? Drake May can throw a guy open, right? There's some, he's not Josh Allen, but he's close. There are some big similarities between those two in a lot of ways. He's a lot more athletic than people think he is.
Sure.
An athletic quarterback is not scrambling for big first downs against this Seahawks defense, right? I think the quarterback that beats the Seahawks defense is someone like Stafford. I think Drake May has it in him, but he also doesn't have Nakua and Adams, right?
Yeah.
He's got Keyshawn Booty and Demario Douglas and
Stephon
some guys.
Diggs.
Yeah, and Diggs is good, but Diggs isn't Nakua or Adams anymore, and they don't have Sean McVay as their offensive brain either. So
Mhm.
I just think it's not to say that I think the Seahawks are a slam dunk to win this game. It's not to say that Drake May, is going to have a bad game against the Seahawks, but I would be very surprised if he had a good game. I would be very surprised. Seahawks having a couple of weeks to rest and Mike McDonald a couple of weeks to scheme. And it's not McVay and Stafford. You cannot compare the Patriots offense and the Rams offense and say because the Rams did something the Patriots will too. Does not work that way. Not against this team. It doesn't.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Most young quarterbacks, in fact, I think there was a stat that showed quarterbacks that are under 25 are 0-6 against Mike McDonald defenses. Like they
Mhm.
don't fare well because Mike McDonald's the complexity in his scheme is beyond just stunts up front, which they run a lot of stunts up front. It's
Mhm.
beyond disguising the coverage. Like the whole field's disguising. Like Nick Emenwari, is he a linebacker or is he a safety? You don't know.
Exactly.
You won't know pre-snap to post-snap. Like
He could
that's
be an edge. He can be an edge and be coming off the edge on a blitz, right? Lined up
yes.
as an edge for all we know.
Or he can also be covering your wide receiver down. He could be a cornerback. He can be a cornerback. Like you,
And he can.
the the fluidity of this team. You never know. Demarcus Lawrence might be dropping in the coverage to cover your guy. Like that's just because this defense keeps you on your toes. And we haven't seen a people are forgotten, I believe, because in the playoffs, Mike McDonald has known that those type of things don't work against his division rivals. He's better off with a sound, disciplined plan that caters to the weaknesses of his division rivals, and he's not doing as much mad scientist stuff. But when he plays those young quarterbacks, go back to the Commanders game. Last time they played a young quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and know he got injured in that game. All of that, all of those things, but he had him in a blender, so he can absolutely cook up uh, a young quarterback, and he chooses the spots where he knows he's playing a young quarterback to take advantage of what his mind can do and what his scheme can do.
I will say Drake May is the best young quarterback in the NFL, I believe. And
Define young.
I, he's 23, I
You
think.
mean like you mean like new, like sophomore,
No,
rookie?
I mean like 25 and under.
I'll come back to that. Maybe,
Who
maybe.
would who would
I'll
you
think
take
about it.
over him? Jay Daniels?
I gotta check the ages of the folks I'm used to. So I don't know how old is
Like whom?
like how old is Josh Allen now? Is he 28 now?
Who's that?
Josh Allen, is he like 28
Who's
now?
he? Yeah, he's
Like
27,
I'm trying to
28 years
think, trying
old.
to think of the ages of the folks that I know.
Jake
Joe Burrow's
Drake May's
about
23.
yeah.
Joe Burrow's like 20, 26, 27, I think, or late or older.
Yeah, so they pass that through. If that group is past the threshold, then I can see where you're coming from. I just gotta trying to go through ages in my head with these
Yeah,
these quarterback
Josh
Rolodex
Allen is 20.
being
Josh Allen's 29, believe it or not.
29. Wow. Whoo.
Time goes
All right.
fast.
Time does go fast. I did not know that. Well, yeah,
Joe Burrow's 20. Joe Burrow's 29.
yeah. You might be
Who
right.
else
I
comes to
mean,
mind from? So
yeah,
Jaden Daniels is one who I think you can't judge him on last year. I love Jaden Daniels, but
yeah.
even he's 25, right? And so
Okay.
I consider him a young quarterback.
Right.
But the reality is that Drake May, I think Drake May is, I do think he's really smart for where he's at in his progression, right? In his
Yeah.
learning curve. I
Yeah.
think he's incredibly smart. And I think he's got elite arm talent. I think he's a top five quarterback in the NFL for a long, long time.
Mhm.
I don't know if his time is yet specifically against this team. If it
I,
is against the Seahawks defense, then man, he's going to be crowned as the next Joe Montana or whatever Tom Brady, whatever you want to say. But I don't think it's happening. Not in this game. I think he might play well. I don't think it's happening in this game.
yeah. I gotta be honest. My main concern from a Seahawks standpoint about this matchup, a couple of things. One, the Patriots do a lot of stunts themselves. Can our offensive line hold up? Pretty easy to target Anthony Bradford. He's had a rough playoff run, but he's held up to some extent. But he's also he's had those 2-3 bad low lights that are like, shoo, should you be on this team? But anyway, I think they can. I think they're certainly
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to take advantage of that. The question is, how does Grace Able show up? I think that sort of is the equalizer. Jalen Sundell's been playing fantastic. Can he continue that? He's going to be critical in this game because they do They're going to have to communicate. Now, continuity helps us, right, in this situation, but that's certainly something I'm watching. Something else I'm watching is K9 because they miss Charbonnet. There's just no question about that. For all of I completely agree with everything you said about K9 and his performance and how critical it was because it completely changed the way the Rams had to play defense, right? Like they weren't able to get into the looks they wanted to get into at times because they had to respect K9 and his explosiveness, right? And his toughness.
Mhm.
Sometimes he just got those yards, but you can also. My concern was give me one in that Rams game you can kind of get a feel for K9 after a while. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure he's
Mhm.
one of those backs that like get better with the game. I think he's one of those backs that like can catch you off guard early, and then if you can adjust, you might just have him, right? Like
Mhm.
that's just kind of how that works, unless
Well,
he can work up some magic.
the Patriots too. Milton Williams and Christian Barmore up front are dogs.
Exactly.
Dogs. There's a reason why they gave Milton Williams the money they did.
Right.
And Barmore's been I think he was sick and was hurt,
Hmm.
but first round pick out of Alabama, those guys are houses up front,
Right.
right? And I think it's hard to run up the middle against this team. This roster that, this roster is built was built over the last couple of years with very big linebackers on purpose, right? Milton Williams is an enormous dude. So if they're gonna try to I don't think the Seahawks will be able to run, you know, through the middle of this defense. I think they can get outside on it, and I think that'll suit K9 a bit. And the only other player worth mentioning really is Christian Gonzalez, who's an All Pro or
Mhm.
plays at an All Pro level, is a top three, top five a corner in the game. But it's interesting when you look at this New England roster. This is not a Super Bowl team to me, right? I don't see a Super Bowl roster when I go top to bottom. Whereas when I look at the Seahawks roster, I do. But I think the line of scrimmage is going to be key in this matchup because that is where um, the Patriots have invested a lot of their money and a lot of their draft capital. And so the Seahawks, specifically the offensive line, I think is going to have to hold up against this Patriots defense. I'm not worried about the Seahawks defensive line. I know they're holding up just fine.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we got Will Campbell's number over there. I think he is the Anthony Bradford of the other side for sure. But
He's still a first round pick. He just has short arms.
he's been a brutal. It's been a brutal
No,
year.
he's taken his lumps this year
Yeah, he
for
has.
sure, and you know they'll attack him.
Right, right.
But they got my boy who's supposed to be a Seahawk, Mike Nwenu, at guard, and they can run,
He's
they
been
can
good.
push up the middle.
Yeah,
They
he's
can push
been.
up the middle. So, well, I don't know. We'll see. I just I'm pumped that we're here. I can't believe we're sitting here talking about this right now.
I,
I
I,
can't.
I've been seeing it coming for a little minute, so I'm not as caught off guard. But it's still an incredible feeling, honestly, to be in this position. Because, I mean, that Rams game was a toss up. That's just the reality about it. It could have gone either way. That was a heavyweight fight for sure. Um, one more thing I did want to speak on in terms of you making that face. You just mad because you've been hating all this time?
No, I'm mad because you're saying you've been seeing it coming. You ain't seen
I
no
have.
Super Bowl team. You
When?
ain't seen you ain't seen
Yes, I
you
have.
ain't seen
Yes,
no
I
Super
have.
Bowl team
Yes, I
since
have.
since when? Week 17, week
No,
18.
no, I've been talking about it for a minute now. I've been talking about it since
Yeah,
probably week.
exactly. Since
No,
week
no, let me go back.
17.
No, not week 17. I've been talking about it since week. Really since the Rams win. I'll be honest. When they got the number one seed, man, I'm like, okay, this is special. Yep. How many debates did we go? And I say, I think
Oh,
this team can go to the NFC Championship now, and they might win it. I said that. I mentioned NFC Championship, and I said they might win it. Now things have to go their way. They gotta finish. They gotta handle business. I called that. I gotta make a cut up. Tino, you're gonna have me go back. I'm gonna have to make a cut
please
up.
do.
Edit this.
Hey,
Edit,
please
edit these
do.
takes out.
You got that selective amnesia is what you
It is
got.
absolutely not selective amnesia. I'm telling you,
Please
man.
do.
I'm telling you, I have been seeing this coming.
Hey,
Now, am I out here making
fact,
guarantees? No, because anything can happen. And also, I don't like jinxing stuff. I'm just gonna be honest about that. I don't like jinxing
listen,
anything. So
I guarantee Super Bowl win. We're doing this.
stop. Now you just jinxed us. Oh my god. Because everything you said has been wrong all the way up to this now. I need for you to pick against us. You have been wrong all year. No, throw it aside. Go back. Go back. Change your name. We don't want it.
No, you
We
see
don't
my
want it.
name, Sam Darnold's number one fan.
Oh no, not at all. Now I'm scared. Now, because you've been having the worst takes all season. Oh my god,
I had no. You're right. You're right.
you've
My
been
take, my
wrong all
Seahawks take,
year.
not on the
Take it
defense,
back.
my on the offensive side. My offensive takes have been horrible. You
Take
are
it
right.
back. Take it
You
back.
are right. No, I
Cannot
ain't taking
guarantee a
that back.
win. Any man's
Yeah,
game.
guarantee a ring, guaranteeing a Super Bowl ring.
I'm finna end the live. See, I just went out. I just lost my video. Oh man.
Do you see how you're locked in? Do you see your expression? How you're locked in?
No, am I like being bad?
You look like
Oh
you're
man, I got
possessed
yeah.
you
I
were
gotta
possessed
leave.
and angry.
Okay, I gotta refresh, man. I can't go out like this.
No, you good. I can hear you now. You're fine. So while Candace is reloading, I don't remember her takes of the Seahawks going to the Super Bowl until it looked like you don't want to hear what I just said either.
I had to quit on you, man.
That's all right. I was talking about how I don't remember you. I was talking about how I don't remember you saying the Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl until like week 17 or 18.
No, it wasn't. It wouldn't be 17 or 18. It was
That's,
like
that's
it was.
I'm just
Would it
saying
have
that's what I
been
was.
16? It probably was 16 though. You might be
If
right.
you're lucky, if you're lucky,
16 is still earlier than you,
if
but
you're lucky,
16 is about right. Because once we got that bye week, I was like, yeah, we cooking with grease now. I didn't
right?
expect the Rams to give up their their spot. I expect them to lose to the Panthers. Honestly, it's what it comes down to. I didn't think the
Yeah.
Rams were going to lose to the Panthers, and so that opened the door up for the Seahawks to take the number one seed. The chances
Mhm.
early on was unlikely, but once we get that number one seed and the
Yeah.
road to the Super Bowl goes through Seattle,
Hey,
we're
shout out
undefeated.
to the 12s. Shout out to the
Out
12s
of the
for
12s.
being as impactful as they were. I don't think uh, home field advantage means the same thing as it used to, right? It's not like it used to be, but Seattle fans made it worth something during these playoffs. 100%.
Yes,
100%.
came with it. Came with it absolutely.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned this earlier. We can get into it now. As we touched on the game a little bit, the Patriots game that is the Super Bowl. But came out today that there was a rumor that Jody Allen was going to sell after the Super Bowl. Now it wasn't the Seahawks that made the statement. It was actually the Allen like estate, the Paul Allen estate. They ended up making a statement. So I'll just read it because I got it up. It says we don't comment on rumors or speculation, and the team is not for sale. We've already said that will change at some point per Paul's wishes, but I have no news to share. Our focus right now is on winning the Super Bowl and completing the sale of the Portland Trail Blazers in the coming months. So that's a statement that came out from Paul Allen. And the reason, for those who are not familiar, that the Seahawks might have to ultimately end up being sold is because it is Paul Allen's wishes that the teams, both the Trailblazers and the Seahawks, be sold, and that the proceeds go to charity. So that's really the most important part to him. He wants charity to benefit from a lot of the work that he's done. So they have to honor those wishes, but there's not at least a known timeline with which that does have to happen. I think it's somewhat close, but it seems fairly loose. They seem to have some freedom with that. Now, I'll be honest. Maybe it's just me being, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not in Seattle or whatever, but like I kind of take that to be somewhat true right now. I thought the timing was odd to begin with, that this news would come out. I found that to be a little strange. Joni Allen has been getting a ton of credit lately after being questioned for years for
Mhm.
her ownership, her leadership. It's coming out about how involved she is with the team and, you know, where this team is. Of course, to your point, the best time to sell is high for sure, but it just seemed odd, especially the week, but like not even after the Super Bowl this comes out. This is like leading the week leading up to the Super Bowl. I
Yep.
believe that this probably was put out there prematurely on purpose. Like you said, we all know that it's got to happen at some point. I don't necessarily think that they plan on that happening right now, especially if they're still not done with the sale of the Portland Trailblazers. To me, that's the selling point that makes me go, okay, yeah. If they haven't even finished selling, if they're not even done with the sale of the Trailblazers yet, then they're not actively starting another sale right now for the other team. Not right now.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did. I don't know that. Honestly, I don't know how much it matters in that they're not moving the team. Obviously, they're not going to bring in somebody who's going to be cheap with the team, right? Football is not the same as other sports where, like baseball, where there's this enormous discrepancy between the Dodgers and like the Twins in terms of their ability to spend. In the NFL, it's very, for verity's sake, there are defined rules about your expenditures, and they're making money hand over fist. So, as far as like does it impact the Seahawks' ability to win in the future? Can it? Sure. Cleveland Browns have a bad ownership, situation, right? And it impacts their team. The Raiders, right? I like the Raiders, but the way that they're run is poor. But the Seahawks have an infrastructure that I think is great. I also think it's going to be someone like a, Steve Ballmer type that buys the team ultimately. There's too much money in Seattle for that to not happen. But you can't help but suspect some anti-Seahawk or Seahawk hater kind of putting that out there. But a lot of people reported on it, right? This wasn't like one person reported on it and then it was done away with. This was all over everywhere. ESPN, was reporting it. It's a headline on ESPN. So to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know if it's something to worry about. Like in the immediate, the Clint Kubiak rumors I think, are more impactful
Right.
than the team going up for sale. If we're
Yeah.
talking about trying to win a Super Bowl,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Does he take a day during preparation to, even if it's not to go interview, it might just be for him to be with his family and try to make some decisions. It could be him, looking at Raiders tape instead of looking at Seahawks tape. You want your coordinator being 100% invested in winning this Super Bowl.
Right.
And I'm sorry whether, he might say that he is, but you're not, if you're thinking about taking the team over, you're watching tape on those players,
Yeah.
right? You're thinking about those players. You're not, and that means you're not thinking about the Seahawks offense 100% of the time.
Yeah. Yep. Completely agree. So I 100% agree. That's certainly a concern of mine. We can talk about it more. Definitely want to preview this game more in depth, do a little bit of a deep dive. But yeah, absolutely, that's certainly a concern of mine, especially because he's also got the Cardinals hanging on, probably for leverage. But
Yeah,
that's weird. But anyway, that's what the team is facing, and I agree with you. Or I don't think there's as much smoke as this maybe led to believe. Personally, I think that that's kind of how things are. Whenever one person reports it, somebody else reports it, and they're like per sources, but the sources is who just said it, and then like they
right,
do that all the time. So like that part doesn't really bother me. They've been talking about this team being sold for like 3 active years, like actively. Like it's like I've seen people talk about it on a national like podcast that the team might be sold soon. So especially after the
right,
Pete thing and all that whole thing. So anyway, I'm just grateful that they put out a statement to at least you know put some of the flames out. This team doesn't need those distractions. That's why I feel like the timing is just too coincidental. This team doesn't need to go to Radio Row being asked a bunch of questions about ownership. They really need to
right,
be focused on this game. They need to be locked
right.
in. Hopefully, this statement helps in terms of reducing some of that. It allows his team to really lock in. But nevertheless, we got to get out of here. Be sure to follow the pod on at Seahawks 360, at Seahawks 360 pod on X, at Seahawks 360 on Blue Sky. Tino, tell the folks where they can find you, and we're gonna get us out of here.
Tino Junior 20 on Blue Sky. You can find me there. Excuse me. You can find me watching Michigan basketball tonight.
Absolutely. All right, that's all the time we have for today. That's all. We're out, and as always, go
Go
home.
Hogs.